Banlist, it is I, Hellgear, and this is my Simorgh deck profile. Many members in my dueling community, as well as some of you viewers, have been asking for an update to this deck. And since the ban list took the barrier statue of the Stormwinds from all bird decks, including this one, I figured now would be as a good time as any to show you the changes that I've made to this deck. And hopefully in the summer, we'll get this Link 3 back in the extra deck. Like, sub, and bell as always. We're trying to get to 2,000 subs. But for now, let's count the cards. As always, we begin our Simorgh deck profile with 3 copies of the Bird of Beginning. With the exception of the last of the low-level birds, all of your low-level birds, well, the other ones, this included, share the following once per turn, where if your opponent has no cards in their back row, they special summon themselves from the graveyard in defense position. But they're banished when you leave the field, when they leave the field, and you're locked into Wing Beast monster special summons for the rest of the turn, which you don't care about because everything in this main deck is a bird. In addition to that, once per turn on normal summon, you can normal summon another different Simorgh bird from your hand. Play starter and extender all in one. Bird of Bringing, up to 3. Yep. Put a third one in here finally. This one on normal summon, because, you know, this is a normal summoning deck, wrote us a different Simorgh card to your hand. It doesn't have to be a monster. It can be a spell or a trap. Search for the card that you need and then keep on rolling. I still run the 2 Birds of Protection. They are a nice bounce of a back row card on your opponent's field on normal summon. The Bird of Ancestry has been bumped up to 2. It has 3 effects, but the second one is the one that matters. If this card is tribute summoned using only wind monsters, well, if all of them are wind monsters, bounce up to 2 cards your opponent controls. This is non-targeting spot removal. So frustrating cards such as the Arrival Cyber's Adagnister, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, or that pain in the butt cheeks Floodgate, you can get them off the field easily. Next up, 3 copies of the Bird of Perfection. Flunderee's decks are using this as a tech option. Dark at base, it is also treated as a wind monster while on the field. If you summon a Wing Beast monster, you can reveal this card in your hand and then normal summon a Simorgh monster. And on normal summon, it sends a Simorgh monster from deck to graveyard. Then you can add a Simorgh Speller Trap from deck to hand. The fact that this is Bird of Bringing and Bird of Calamity all in one makes it so that you don't really need the Bird of Calamity in your deck anymore. 2 copies of the Dark Blade. Just like all the Dark Simorgh birds apparently are treated as wind when they're on the field. I should just note that now. Excuse me. Had to fight a sneeze there. Sorry about that. Yes. Okay. Still fighting sneezes. Sorry. You can special summon this card from your hand if you tribute summon a dark or wind monster. If it's in your hand, or from the graveyard if it is not. It also has a quick effect where you can tribute a Winged Beast you control to negate and destroy a spell. at quick effect speed. Both of these effects are once per turn. The Lord of the Storm is also 2 once per turn effects. Like the Simorgh of Darkness, it has a quick effect speed attributing a wind wing beast you control to target one card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. Also, if a bird dies while this card's in your grave, you can add it to your hand. The shuffle back spot removal does target, in contrast to the Bird of Ancestry's effect, but getting it back to your hand is still a nice thing. Apex Avian for the negates, and of course we have the Dark Simorgh, not to be confused with the third copy of Simorgh of Darkness. This card is a stun tech that keeps your opponent from setting cards, and just like the Dark Simorgh birds, counting as win on the field. You can special summon this card from graveyard by banishing a Dark and Wind monster from your hand, or special summon this card from your hand by banishing a Dark and Wind monster from your graveyard. Summoning conditions are funny that way. DD Crow is still the hand trap of choice. It's another dark bird and another level 1. Into the spell game, we run 2 copies still of the field spell. The minimal attack and defense boost for your Wind Wing Beast isn't all that much. You don't really care too much about it. Jesus, I keep knocking the camera out of the way. I really do keep knocking the camera out of the way. Are we serious here? I really need to work on this camera. Okay. Then it has 2 other once per turn effects. You can reveal a level 5 or higher Wind Wing Beast monster in your hand, and if you do, wind monsters you control require 1 less tribute. And if you control a wind monster, when you activate that, you can normal summon once more. The fact that this deck can normal summon up to 4 times in a turn is one of the things that I enjoy about this deck. 2 copies of Simorgh Onslaught. You discard a winged beast for cost and add 2 Simorgh birds with different attributes to your hand. You can also banish the card to augment levels on a bird. Back row hate. Back row hate. Like Feather Duster, we know destroys cards, and Simorgh Repulsion bounces cards with the discard cost of a winged beast. It also has the same banish and augment level effect as Onslaught. 2 copies of Wing Requital. This is our draw spell. The argument can be made to use trade-in in this deck, but I personally am going to have multiple birds, so paying the 600 life points when I have at least 2 of them to draw 2 cards doesn't really hurt me as much. If you want to use the trade-in, you're more than welcome to. Since our monsters special summon themselves from the graveyard, mostly, or add themselves to your hand from the graveyard, I use 2 quill pens of Goldos instead of Monster Reborn. Target 2 wind monsters in your graveyard and a card on the field. Shuffle the monsters into your deck and bounce the other card. This is essentially salvage for wind-based decks. One reasoning. 8 times out of 10 when I play this card, I am summoning a bird, especially since there are multiple levels of birds in this deck. You know how Call by the Grave and Raigeki work. You know how these cards work. You know what these do. You've been in the game long enough. They don't need to be explained. Trap game. Taken from my sideboard, 2 anti-spell fragrance. This trap plus Dark Simorgh can steal you games. Especially if you can get to one of them, set it after you have Dark Simorgh on your field, and then come your opponent's standby phase, pop anti-spell. Now they can't set the spells. Now they have to set the spells that they would normally use to wipe your board, like Lightning Storm, and they can't, which they won't be able to do because Dark Simorgh prevents your opponent from setting cards. Those classic stun techs, man. You know Flunderies uses Harpy's Feather Storm as a global field negate for the turn. Nothing new there. Tri-Brigade Revolt for that last-ditch effort. And, of course, 2 Solemn Strikes because, yeah, you're going to need that madness. Wrapping up the main deck. Extra deck still got the Kika Nagashi Fuko. And, of course, the Recital Starling. Even though the ban list says you can use 2 of them, 2 detaches to search level 1 birds is kind of too much. So I'm using an assembled Nightingale, Little Miss Stompy Bird, instead of a second Recital Starling. Ice Beast Zerifying is still the best rank 4 winged beast monster in the game. That you can buy for $1. It shuts off your opponent's field, and then it gets beefed up for each of the face-up cards on your opponent's field that it turned off. It's skill drain on wings. Lightning Chidori for the blowbacks. If you don't have it, you can always use Castell if you want to keep to the ice or the wing beast archetype lock. More back row hate and Tornado Dragon. Just a rank 8 for the big birds when I need to overlay them. And then we have our links. Link Karibo, we all know how good that is. Win the Wind Charmer, mainly used as a stepping stone for Rasvelgar the Desperate Doom Eagle, who can once per turn at quick effect speed, bounce a monster in your opponent's, shuffle a monster in your opponent's graveyard into their deck. And when your opponent has no monsters in their graveyard, it gains 2400 attack. Small Nightmare Engine and the Tri-Brigade extra deck engine because I do play Revolt in this deck. Summoning is not too big of a deal when it comes to this deck because you can always go into it very well. A good example of getting a lot of normal summons is you normal summon your Bird of Bringing. Bird of Bringing lets you normal summon another bird, so you can normal summon, Bird of Beginning to go into Bird of Bringing. If Bird of Bringing is in your hand and you need to, you can add the Bird of Perfection into your hand as well. You'll reveal the Bird of Perfection and then you'll normal summon it again. This lets you dump another card. So usually you could dump something like, say, where are you? You can dump like Dark Simorgh, or you can dump your Lord of the Storm. Where is my Lord of the Storm? That's Bird of Ancestry. Where is my Lord of the Storm? Where is my Lord of the Storm? Are we serious? Are we serious? I have only one Lord of the Storm, and it eludes me. Mama. Either way, you can pitch one of those birds. And if you have another big bird in your hand, you'll just add the Elborz to the field spell spot. Since you have these birds, you can also link this away for your Link Karibo. And then you can either link one of these two away to go into win. Then you can special summon the bird of beginning from your graveyard. Now you're locked into winged beasts. So you can then link these away and go into Rosvelgar, the Desperate Doom Eagle, which comes out thanks to Elbor's at 5,100 attack points. And since you have a win monster, you can reveal the big bird in your hand. And one of the things I like to do, there's the Lord of the Storm finally showing up, is I like to reveal Bird of Ancestry. And then if I need to, I can tribute one of my other birds on my opponent's turn, summon Bird of Ancestry, and bounce 2 cards. Which is really, really good. But that's it for this deck profile. I hope you guys have enjoyed the updates. Hopefully we'll get the Link 3 one day soon. My guess is the summer. Like, sub, and bell. But for now, I take my cards to the box because I'm done. Bye-bye, everybody.